what I found with you was that we were able to actually discuss topics that were interesting and focus on the topics and building both knowledge and vocabulary by discussing topics that were interesting, not just focusing on grammar itself.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Italian by Lara channel. Today I'm speaking with one of my students, Robert. He is from Norway and I'm delighted to have him here today. Hi Robert.
Hello, how are you?
Good. So we have just finished one of our lessons and today I would like to speak with you about this incredible journey that you started with Italian many years ago. But first of all, please introduce yourself to the audience. Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do?
My name is Robert. I was born in the US, but I've lived in Norway most of my life. I have an American mom and a Norwegian father, and they moved to Norway when I was a kid. I was born in the US. I went back to study for my second master's, and I worked for a few years in the US before returning to Norway. I work as a consultant, a strategy consultant, and I'm a local politician also here in Norway.
You have a wonderfully international background between Norway, the United States, and a strong presence in Italy. How did your connection with Italian culture first begin?
It actually started when I was a kid because my mom, she worked as an art teacher, art history teacher, and she also ran a couple of art galleries. And so she would drag the family around Europe from gallery to gallery or from city to city. So I spent most of my summers traveling around Europe to visit art galleries or traveling around the US to visit family. And so us three kids with three brothers got a very healthy dose of art and galleries and churches and monuments and European cities, and in particular Italian cities, of course, being so central to the art history. And so even from I was a tiny kid, we were dragged from gallery to gallery. And I had my first solo travel when I was 18, and that obviously went to Italy by train, and I had some fantastic experiences in Italy, and that kind of shaped me for life.
Do you remember about traveling through Italy with your parents as a young man? Is there an image or a moment that had stayed with you?
One in particular, we were in Venice in summer. It was blistering hot. My brother, one of my brothers, he sat down on the steps of a church, claiming he was allergic to stone buildings. So, yeah, it was one of those moments where being a tourist in Italy was just unbearable for a kid. And I also remember experiencing Rome for the first time. Just the beauty and the giant size of such a city was overwhelming. So that also stuck with me for life.
Your parents came from different worlds, yet they were united by a shared love of art and travel. How did that shape your own relationship with Italy?
Well, Italy became kind of the place where we had to return to always, because that's where you found all the major galleries. That's where you found the history or the main part of the history of art. And that's where you could find beauty, not in just inside the galleries, but also in the cities themselves, in the landscape and in the people. For me, it became the place where we went to not just be educated, but also to feel at home. It became home.
When did you realize that Italian was not just a language to study, but something more personal to you?
Well, as it happened, if you go to a place, you don't want to be just an outside spectator. You need to, at least for us and for me, I wanted to immerse myself and become part of it, not just to observe it from the outside. And in order to do that, you absolutely have to know the language. And I realized that the more and better Italian I speak, the better I'm able to interact with people and understand people and have them understand me. And you go from being a visitor or a tourist to being one of us.
Living in Norway, keeping Italian alive and truly nurturing it can't be easy. What were you looking for that you hadn't found elsewhere?
Well, I try to get a daily dose of Italian. I try to expose myself to Italian language at least daily, to read something, listen to something. But I find that the language courses are mostly too focused on grammar, too focused on vocabulary, and not too much focused on making the content interesting. And so what I found with you was that we were able to actually discuss topics that were interesting and focus on the topics and building both knowledge and vocabulary by discussing topics that were interesting, not just focusing on grammar itself. And by focusing on interesting topics, you also make the words stick easier. It makes it easier to remember because you put the words into a context. So very, very useful, both for language study, but also because the topics themselves were very interesting to me.
Is there an aspect of the approach that surprised you or that you particularly enjoyed?
I really enjoyed your ability to adapt the topics that we discussed to what interests me, because your approach is very personal. Your approach is very adapted to each student. And so I found that you were very responsive to when I suggested a topic. You came fully prepared the next week, and we were able to discuss the topic in depth. And also you were sending me materials that were very interesting. Even though some of the topics I knew from beforehand, I always learned something new. It was very, very interesting.
I know you have a beautiful plan to spend much of the year in Italy once you retire. Could you tell us about it?
I've spent nearly every summer since I was a kid in Italy, and I've spent the last 12 years in summer schools learning language in Tuscany. And so I have a lot of local friends, and a member of the family also has a vineyard in Tuscany. So I plan to spend more time there. I will not move there because I have my family here in Norway, but I plan to spend as much time as I can in Italy with my friends doing the wine business. I'm also educated as a sommelier, so that adds that part of it.
How important is Italian in making that dream come fully true?
Speaking Italian obviously is fundamental. I mean, if you are to live in a country, if you are to interact with locals, if you are to have local friends, you need to speak the language. It's fundamental. And so finally, now being able to speak fairly fluently, that will help me actually make that exist and make that dream come true. But also, it's not just mastering the language, but also mastering the culture. And in that respect, you've also been very, very helpful because you've added an understanding of culture, which is also quite fundamental.
Do you recommend this experience of learning through Italian by Lara to what kind of person would get the most out of it?
This is a place to explore culture. This is a place to explore the topics that interest you. This is a place to prepare you for understanding Italian culture, maybe living in the Italian culture. And so I suppose your main students would be people worldwide, adults with an ambition to spend significant time in Italy, understanding and being able to integrate more closely into the local culture.
If you had to say in one sentence what learning Italian in this way has given you, what would it be?
Learning Italian with you in one sentence has been a very fulfilling experience, and I'm very happy to continue doing so when we have a chance.